Good morning to all of you. Today we will cover one of the beautiful points in JSP, so that is MVC, Model View Controller. Without MVC, we can develop a dynamic web application. There is no problem. Then why we are going through MVC? And if you got the clarity, if you will get the clarity in MVC, so when we will go to Spring Boot, so it will be very easy to you the project structure for understanding. So what is MVC? So today we will know in detail. So first of all, we will know the MVC architecture and what is the mechanism, what is the flow control. Model is a component, view is a component, control is a controller is a component. So in MVC context, there is a client side and there is a server side, there is a server side and there is a database. Okay, so this is client side and this is a server side and this is a database. So we are using MySQL as a database environment, or you can use Oracle, there is no problem. MySQL we are using. So in MVC context, there is a client side, there is a server side, and there is a database. In server side, model is a component, view is a component, controller is a component. Then which technology that we will choose as model component, view component, or controller component? So you remember first, this is protocol. What the protocol is, servlet must be considered as controller component. This is a protocol. So what I told, servlet, servlet must be what considering as controller component. Suppose this is controller. So who is the controller component? Servlet. Servlet. A JSP page or a set of JSP pages as view component. View component. A JSP page or a set of JSP pages. So JSP file considering as view component. Then many technologies can be considered as model component. Many technologies can be considered as model component. So this is related to model component. So we can consider JDBC as a model component. We will consider Java Bean as a model component. We will consider Hibernate as a model component. We will consider EJB as a model component. So many technologies that we can consider as model component, but we will know which is the most suitable model component. We all have known JDBC. So JDBC nowadays it is a disadvantageous fact. For executing one SQL statement, we are writing five number of steps, and JDBC throwing exception, checked exception. Okay, so you think and imagine in a project, if it will require more than one SQL statement we will execute, then how many number of steps that we will repeat. So the code will be heavyweight component, and particular steps we will repeat that will represent a boilerplate. That is called a boilerplate. So that is a disadvantage. EJB nowadays enterprise Java bin. Nowadays it is outdated. Spring framework came to the picture, that is the alternative of EJB. Till now we don't know what is EJB. Hibernate, we don't know what is Hibernate. Till now, whatever we have studied. So the most suitable component, that is Java bin, you remember. Why? I will explain what is Java bin. It is a completely, it is a lightweight component. It is normally it is a simple class containing private data members and containing getter and setter method. In JDBC context that we all have known getter and setter methods. So you remember the most suitable model component is bin. The most suitable model component is bin. So we will discuss in later what is Java bin. Okay, so first point, so you got the clarity. So in server side, model is a component, view is a component, controller is a component. Servlet must be considered as a controller component. You cannot tell a JS, sir, why JSP we will not consider as controller. No, this is protocols, this is rules and regulations. The servlet must be considered as controller component. A JSP page or a set of JSP pages must be considered as a view component. Java bin is the suitable model component. Clear? So now we will see what is the mechanism, what is the flow control. So first the request will go from client to server side. First the request will go. So whatever the request will go, we know that that is called as what? HTTP request. So from the client, a request is going to the server over the web. Then once the request will reach at the server side, the request will reach actually at the controller component. You remember. So request first will reach at the controller component. Then once a request reached at the controller component, so what is the responsibilities of a controller component? The controller saw the programmer have taken Java bin as model component. Bin is your model component containing getter and setter method, but whatever we have the business logic that we will write in model component, I mean in Java bin. So what is the responsibilities of controller component? Mindfully listen. The controller component create an instance of model component. The controller component creates an instance. That means we will create an object of model component in servlet. We will develop a servlet. That servlet will be considered as controller component. Model is bean is nothing but a class. So the bean object we will create in controller component. In that means in servlet is the first task. Controller creating the instance of model component. Then after creating the instance of model component, controller execute business logic, whatever the business logic we have written in model component. You remember. Then after that, that means after executing business logic, then controller component choose a JSP page as view component. So after executing the business logic, after executing the business logic, the controller choose a JSP page as view component. Then through this view component, means through this JSP page, so required response will go to the client. So whatever the response that the client will get over the web, that is called as HTTP response. That part already we have known. Then model component can interact with the database component. You remember, model component can interact with the database component. If the controller component and view component want to communicate with the database, they cannot communicate with the database directly. If they want to communicate, so they will communicate via model component. But model component communicate directly with the database. So this is MVC architecture, rules and regulation. Client is going from client to server, and the client will reach at the controller component. So controller is doing what? Controller creating the object of model component. Then after that, controller executing business logic, whatever the model component containing. After executing business logic, the controller choosing a particular JSP page as view component. Through that view component, a response is coming to the client. Then model component directly communicating with the database. So controller and view component, they can't communicate with the database directly. If they want to communicate, they will communicate via model component. So this is MVC architecture. So you draw, this is MVC architecture, architecture, okay, rules and regulations, whatever I told. This is MVC architecture, and whatever the points that I explained, this is MVC rules and regulation.